Alrighty, so we're starting 10.1. We have 8 questions to cover. This is a pretty simple section. Hopefully it makes a lot of sense to you guys straight off the bat. Some of these things you should already know how to do, but I'm going to go into a little bit more detail as to why things are the way that they are. So for this first one, if I were to ask you what the square root of 36 is, hopefully you guys already know that it's 6. But let's talk about why it's 6, okay? So if you guys remember, the imaginary number on the outside of a radical is a 2, right? So that means we take things out in groups of 2, okay? So essentially the square root of 36, or 36, can be rewritten, right? We can rewrite 36 in multiple different ways, but we can rewrite it as 6 times 6, right? So because we can rewrite it as 6 times 6, we can take out things in groups of 2. So we can take out one group of 6, and that leaves us with nothing under the radical. So that is the final answer, okay? That's actually why. All right, next we have 0. Okay, remember we can take things out in groups of 2. And so what times itself gives us 0? 0, right? Again, we can take things out in groups of 2. So here we have 0. Right, for the next one we have a fraction. Whenever you have a fraction, you can actually split them up. So we can do the square root of 4 on the top divided by the square root of 49 on the bottom. Simple enough, right? So again, remember there's imaginary 2's here, so we can take them out in groups of 2. 4 is the same thing as 2 times 2. So we take out one group of 2, so the square root of 4 is 2. On the bottom, 7 times 7 is 49. So we take out one group of 7, and we get 7 and nothing else, okay? All right, for this next one, we have a decimal. I think it would be easier if you changed your decimal to a fraction. Hopefully you guys know how to do that. If you don't, you can kind of just play around with it. Here you have 0.25, right? If you want to think about like money, that's just like a, sorry, that's just like a quarter, right? So let's say we have $1. So I have 4 quarters, right, to make up $1. 25 cents, 25 cents, 25 cents. So if I have 1 quarter, that means I have 1 of 4 for the entire dollar, okay? So this is actually 1 over 4. If you want to convert using your calculator, depending on what kind you have, let's say you have this simplistic calculator, essentially you do your 0.25, and then you'd hit second, and then you hit this, let me focus it yet. You hit second, and then you hit this backspace button for that yellow because it says decimal to fraction, and now it tells you 1 over 4, okay? If you do this and you get some weird, like, what is it? Divided by, let's do. When you do it, if you get like a line and a little backwards L shape, what you need to do is an extra step. So you would hit second and then hit ABC. And then it would change it to the fraction for you, okay? So again, if you're working this problem and you hit second back and you get a line and a backwards L, you then need to hit second ABC and change it to a real fraction, okay? But at any rate, on other calculators, it should just say fraction to decimal somewhere on there. So just look for a DF conversion. All right, so next, we do the same thing we did on C. We can split this up to the square root of 1 and the square root of 4. The square root of 1 is 1 and the square root of 4 is 2. So that's our final answer. Alrighty. For E, we have x to the 6th power. So remember there's an imaginary 2 on the outside, so I'm going to go ahead and write that. It means we can take things out in groups of 2. So what does it mean to be raised to the 6th power? It means that we write x 6 times, right? We go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Writing this 6 times is the same thing as saying x to the 6. So now we can take them out in groups of 2. So I can take out 1 group of x, 2 groups of x, and 3 groups of x. So for our final answer, we have x to the 3rd, because we can take out 3 groups, okay? Another way and a quicker way to work this problem is whatever this power is, you actually take that number, 6, and then you divide it by this outside number, and that gives you 3. So that's where this 3 is coming from, okay? And it'll get a little bit more complicated later where we'll have remainders, but we'll get to that when we get there, okay? So example F, sorry. Again, we're taking them out in groups of 2. So when you're working with these, I'm just going to simplify this as much as possible now. You can actually split these up just like you did the fractions. So this is the same thing as saying the square root of 9 times the square root of x to the 12, okay? Now, we know that the square root of 9 is 3, because 3 times 3 is 9. And then over here, we can do our little trick. So we say 12 and then divide it by our imaginary 2, which gives us 6. So we know that this is going to now be x to the 6th power, because we take them out in groups of 2. Okay? And that will be our final answer. You do not have to split it up like this. You can literally look at it here and then go straight to the answer if you want. I'm trying to just provide enough explanation as to why. Okay? Now let's look at G. So for G, we have this negative on the outside, so it just tags along, okay? So we just bring the negative down. We just bring the negative down as part of the problem. And then here we have 81. 9 times 9 is 81. So then we put a 9. And that would be our final answer. Okay? For H, we cannot take a square root of a negative. So this is going to be not a real number. Okay? So this one's imaginary. Not a real number. And you'll learn more about that in college algebra. I don't think we get into that by the end of this section. But yeah, that'll be something that you learn later on. Actually, I think we might have covered that earlier, how to do that. Remember, I'm going to go ahead and do it just so you guys have it for college algebra. But essentially, if you have a negative on the inside, it comes out of the radical as imaginary. So we put an I. And then what's left? The 81, right? And now the square root of 81 is 9. And we still have our I. So this would be the final answer. I9 or 9I, okay? But for your homework, I'm pretty sure you just select, it's not a real number. But in your next course, you're going to have to write 9I. So that's why I went ahead and worked it out.